Welcome to Music Student 101. The ability to transcribe a piece of music to paper is important for any musician. So get to know this melody early on. In this episode, we will be transcribing Dewey and Dora by Keith Andrews, one of our valued listeners. So grab your notation paper. Here are your hosts, Jeremy Burns and Matthew Scott Phillips.
Oh, Matt.
Ah, Jeremy, how is life?
Actually, I'm pretty giddy today, Matt.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, man, because last night, me and my lovely wife, Heather, our good friends, Andrea and Bryce, and, of course, my old chum, Brian Malloy, who, as you know, is the resident drum player for the show.
Yep.
And one of my oldest songmates, longest-lived songmates. Well, we all went to go see Lennon Claypool Delirium. So
that is Les Claypool.
Les Claypool, my favorite bassist probably in the whole universe.
Yeah.
And Sean Lennon, the son, the legacy of John Lennon, the Beatle.
Wow.
Whoa, to be in the same room?
Yeah.
Just to be in the same room? And the music was just fantastic. You know, Les Claypool with Primus does a lot of really kind of weird time signatures and diminished kind of stuff.
Yeah, lots of big bass arpeggios, famous for his slap bass technique.
Yes, which is very fun, but not everyone's into that. This to me was way more what I would consider musical. Diatonic.
Pared down a little bit, yeah.
Pared
diatonic,
down,
yeah.
With a Pink Floyd feel, with Beatles kind of psychedelic feel, and all that good stuff. Everything good about both of those worlds. But anyways, Brian Malloy was the guy that got me into that. You know, I remember freshman year in high school, he called me up and said, "Dude, you got to hear this." And he plays Mr. Know-It-All from their album Frizzle Fry. And I said, "What did I just hear?" Again. You know what I mean?
First time I ever heard Les Claypool, I remember thinking, that's one guy playing the bass?
Yeah.
Seriously? They don't have like two bass players?
Like
no.
a team?
Yeah.
A bass team?
and no, that's that was one guy.
Well, again, Brian and I have been actually having some fun lately because we did this intro track to this episode.
Yeah.
Based on a listener composition.
Right.
And that will be the focus for this show. What we're going to do is we are going to transcribe this song and we're going to put it into a lead sheet format.
Okay.
So a lead sheet format will have within one line of a notation the key, the time signatures, the notation, the actual melody, just the melody.
Yeah.
We'll have chords on the top of each measure, and on the bottom we'll have lyrics.
Yeah. So this is something that people have asked us about.
Mm-hmm. In fact, I believe was it Tyler Critchlow on the last episode?
It may have been.
Yeah, I think
he was asking about how to do a lead sheet. So this is a good thing. We're going to sort of walk you through the process of transcribing something like this, because you can actually make money. People will actually pay you to make up lead sheets of the songs they've written.
And you have done this, haven't you,
Matt? I have done this.
Yeah. So that's a cool skill to learn. And it's a funny thing in my head. We did an episode on transposition. Mm-hmm. And in my head, I thought we already did transcribing because those words kind of sound alike.
It's kind of sound alike. Yeah, but, transposing and transcribing are two different things.
Completely different things.
And arranging is something different altogether.
So. But maybe when we're done transcribing this, we can later on transpose it for fun.
Yeah, hey,
That won't be in this episode. In fact, this is going to be a two-part episode because there's a few steps involved. And
yeah.
I think, let's get into some listener mail first. And
then
let's
get into it, and then we'll start talking about that. So, let's do some listener mail.
We have a new review.
We have a
a 5-star review from Aaron Joe Bizdickian, who has actually written this not too long ago, so we'll hear more from him down the road. But he is writing this review from Lebanon.
In Lebanon, no less. Wow.
First listener from Lebanon that I know of, anyways.
That's a new country for us, isn't it?
That is, I think. There's a Lebanon, Alabama.
There is.
And there's also an Arab, Alabama.
There's an Arab, Alabama. Yeah, and the place in Alabama is pronounced Arab.
Arab.
It's spelled Arab.
Right.
But it's pronounced Arab. I wonder if they call Lebanon, Alabama, Lebanon.
I don't know how they pronounce that. I've never been there, but I've seen it on
never been there
road
either.
signs.
Well, we were going to we joke sometimes, Fran and I, that we're going to take the European tour of the South, because there's Athens, Georgia, and then there's Rome, Georgia, and then there's like a Paris, Tennessee.
You can come back and tell your friends, yes, we went to Paris and Rome and Athens. Had some good fried food.
Yeah, had some great fried chicken and catfish. And
So anyways, Aaron Jobisdickian says, and I quote, college-level education for free, amazing podcast.
Thank you. Thank you.
Short,
so
sweet,
much.
no BS.
Yeah.
Love it.
And true. We've actually made this point ourselves a couple of times.
I think we have, haven't we?
College-level education for free.
All right. Do you want to read the new Patreon patron, Matt? We have a new Patreon patron.
We have a new Patreon patron. His name is Nick Dahl.
Right.
From Bonnie Lake, Washington. Love the name of that town.
Yeah, my Bonnie.
Yeah, the Bonnie Lake. And Nick says, I've been playing guitar since I was 8, and I'm 23 now. Got really into it learning Pink Floyd songs and progressed into fingerstyle, acoustic, and some classical stuff. Sounds like he's pretty advanced. Found myself being bottlenecked once I really started picking up my chops and becoming fascinated with math rock, jazz, and prog. Yeah.
Math rock, huh?
Yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah?
That's a thing. Those are some advanced and sophisticated musical styles.
Dream theater kind of stuff?
Yeah. I've gained a weird, backward, self-taught understanding of theory. I feel you. And your podcast, with its beautifully crafted explanations and examples, is giving me epiphanies with most every episode. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
so
nice.
glad to hear that. Also, I picked up an Ibanez BTB 845 5-string bass. Ooh. I'm rubbing my hands.
Matt rubs his hands.
5-string bass a few months ago, and I'm learning how fun bass can really be. Yes!
Yes.
This is really, I think it's the most fun instrument ever. Now, I'm biased, I guess, but yeah, I think it's the most fun. And I play Ibanez guitars too, so we have that in common. Yeah. Ibanez basses, rather. And he continues, I really want to thank you for enriching my music experience. P.S. Check out the band Chone. Anthony Crawford does session writing for their albums, and they have some awesome bass parts as well as genuinely the coolest guitar riffs and melodies I've ever heard. I'd recommend the song Water Slide off of the album Homie. Yeah, with much love, Nick Dahl. Yeah, thank you so much, Nick. We will check that out.
Absolutely.
I'm always interested to hear new good bass players.
Yeah. And that 5-string bass. I remember when I got my first 5-string bass, my only 5-string bass. And I really did love it, at the time. But it kind of, the reason I got it, I think I mentioned this before on the show too, was because, I was into Les Claypool for one thing, and he had a 6-string bass.
He has a 6-string.
And I did want to explore that lower end. But then I found myself not really using that low B string as much. And oftentimes confusing it for the low E string.
Yeah, oops.
Yeah. And the strings were so close together, I couldn't do my slapping and popping thing.
Yeah.
So I got a 4-string bass and stopped and didn't do any slapping and popping after that.
Well, back before I got too busy teaching to play live in bands as much, I was playing an Ibanez bass, and it was a 6-string. Yeah, and I always used to get a little flack for it. It's like, oh, you need a 6-string, huh? Kind of like I'm being uppity or something. And I honestly had bought the bass because I liked the sound and the feel of the bass, and just didn't care if it was a 6-string. But what I found was I went from the stage of like ignoring the high string to deliberately trying to use the high string to that's just another string.
Right, yeah.
So to just kind of using it organically in my bass lines and things. So.
And that string is also kind of in guitar player territory. They tend to like to occupy that space from time to time.
Yeah, a little too much. And my upper string was tuned to C.
Okay.
So it was B-E-A-D-G-C. So I had fourths going all the way. So none of my scale fingerings changed or anything. It was just kind of a little extension.
That's the way I would do it.
Yeah.
I think that's the recommended way anyways.
Yeah.
Also, Nick we were talking about how I had started learning some acoustic Pink Floyd stuff like Vera Lynn.
Yeah. And yes, Jeremy has his guitar today. Yeah, there you go.
And I told him I would try and bust it back out so he could hear it, but I'm working on it. It's been a long time.
It's been a while.
But yes, I do have my guitar because we'll be using that for some examples for this song.
Yeah.
Anyways, we want to thank you again, Nick. If you guys want to support us, check out patreon.com/musicstudent101.
Yes, you a dollar will get you a month will get you access to some cool extra stuff that we have. At $5.
Oh, don't forget the major thirds.
Yeah, major thirds. So at $3, you get a cool Music Student 101 coffee mug.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's black. It's a big one.
Yeah, 18 ounces.
Yeah, and then at $5, we will answer any question you have for us in a special Patreon-only 15-minute mini episode.
Yes, indeed. And we just did one of those recently, so you guys can go check that out.
Yeah,
see what we had to say. Now we have a new listener mail.
Excellent.
This is Peter J. Casey from Wagga Wagga, New South Wales, Australia.
Nice. Wagga Wagga.
He said originally the word Wagga Wagga was thought to mean the place of many crows, as so named by its original people, the Wiradjuri people. But more recent conversations and research indicate that it means to play, to dance, or to undertake ceremonial dancing. But he theorizes that we have so many Australian listeners because people have to drive long distances to get anywhere in Australia.
That makes sense.
Yeah. It's a big place. And he said that he listens while he mows his lawn. He has an electric mower, so he can hear our podcast. And I said, I do the same thing, actually. I have an electric mower. It's one of those Ryobi things, or Ryobi, however you say it.
Yeah,
you plug the battery in.
Yeah.
And it's actually quite quiet. You know, you can hear what so I can review my shows and make sure I'm not saying anything stupid.
That's good.
While I'm mowing my lawn, too. So we got that in common, Peter. Okay, here's what Peter has to say. I studied jazz in my youth, and I've worked on and off in cabaret and musical theater as an accompanist, musical director, and composer-lyricist.
Wow.
Yeah. That's pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
So when I started listening to episode 1 of your show, I arrogantly thought, well, I'll probably just be hearing things I already know for quite a while. I was wrong, says Peter. I think I've learned something in every episode, either a different way of viewing a particular piece of theory or a use for some technique I wasn't already aware of. It's been fantastic for me to deepen my knowledge of things I think I already know. And since my terminology is all from a jazz background, I've learned a lot of figured bass and augmented sixth things I didn't know at all.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a different dialect when you're studying jazz theory.
Right, yeah. Now, here we go. I had a question about the 5 of 7 chord.
Okay.
Which I appreciate doesn't really exist.
Right.
Since we don't think of tonicizing a diminished triad.
Yes, this has been a subject that has come up every now and again.
We have, yeah. So he says, but do you know the song Miss
Seeley's Blues?
Miss Seeley's Blues. Okay, from the color purple.
Yeah.
He says it uses almost all the secondary dominants in a given key.
Mm-hmm.
Like this.
Yeah.
He's got a C.
Let's see if I can do this. A C. And then, what's that? B7.
Mm-hmm.
And then B7 flat 5. Very jazzy. And then an A7. And to D7. And then to G7. Yeah.
So he says, I figure that's 1, 5, 7 of 3.
Okay.
Sub 5, 7 of 6.
Yeah.
5, 7 of 2.
Mm-hmm. 5, 7 of, and then 5, 7 of 5 with the D, and then 5, 7 with G7, and then with the where we ended on the G7, and that's going to bring us back to,
So can we hear those chords again as I call out the diatonic names for them?
Let's see if we can.
Diatonic-ish. So we have a 1. We have a 5, 7 of 3.
Okay, yeah, 5, 7 of 3. Here we go.
But it goes to, instead of a 3, it goes to a 7.
It goes to, well, he's
B flat 7.
B flat 7 flat 5. So
it's like
okay. So and then yeah, there you go.
And then that's the 5, 7 of 4.
Right.
I'm sorry, 6.
Yeah. To A7.
Which is a 5, 7 of 2.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then to 5, 7 of 5, to just 5/7, and that's going to lead us back to that 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
So far, so good?
So far, so good, yeah.
Continue, if you will, Matt.
And he says, so I thought, what if you started one further back along the chain? What if you did this? And then he has, he's just starting one further back along the chain. C.
He still starts in C, but instead of going right to that.
C, yeah, but then he goes to F sharp 7 here. You know? Mm-hmm. And then, so that would basically be 5 of 7.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be the and I'm not playing that right. There we go. So he goes from C to F sharp 7, which would be the controversial 5/7 of 7, right? And then from there is basically playing the same chord progression where he then goes B7, 5/7 of whatever it is, 3,
3,
you know, and then the B flat 5, and then etc.
So he's saying,
kind of garbling those chords a little bit.
That's all right. He's saying, what would you call that F sharp 7 in that context? It never sounds like it modulates out of C major, but do we have to pretend we're briefly in a different key just so we can avoid using 5 of 7?
Or is there some other more elegant solution?
Love your work. Keep it up.
Yeah, it seems like I emailed him about this.
You did.
Yeah.
So ultimately, he's asking, what would we call in the key of C major? What would we call this F sharp 7?
Right. And the good news is, no, it feels a little ridiculous to pretend we moved to a new key when we clearly didn't. Right. And he's right about that. And I don't like complicated explanations like that.
Me neither.
Yeah, a couple of things about this particular chord progression and does the 5/7 work? Well, first of all, you can do anything you want, right?
Yeah.
I mean, musicians write this music, and then theorists come back and figure out what was happening later. You know, I mean, theory is not a rule book. So if you want to write that chord, write it. There are a couple of things that I do think are helping us get over that can't have a dominant move to a diminished triad problem in this particular case. One is the strength of that circle of fifths progression. So this is actually a thing that you learn about in theory when you start learning about secondary dominance, because it happens a good bit. So rather than going 6, 2, 5, 1 with the diatonic qualities of those triads, normal circle of fifths, you'll go 5 of 2, 5 of 5, 5. Right, making them all just secondary dominants, leading to another secondary dominant.
Right.
This is what we're doing here. And the strength of that progression is going to make that chord make sense. Because it was just another secondary dominant going to a secondary dominant. If you then made the 7 that came after it, the B, not B diminished, but B dominant 7. So in itself, 5/7 of 4. Then you're fine. Then first of all, you're resolving out to another major triad, or major minor 7 chord. But then you're fine. Another thing, even if you weren't doing that, if you went 5 of 7 to 7, I might be tempted to call that a simultaneity, a chord that is a product of chromatic motion in its voices that does not itself necessarily have function. Now, I've normally we do that with 7 chords, like fully diminished 7 chords, where it's just a fully diminished 7 chord and it doesn't have harmonic function. It has sort of a contrapuntal function.
It's like someone just kind of plopped it right down there in the middle of the progression.
Sort of, but it's more like, your voices were moving and they moved into this chord and they moved into ways that made sense, and this chord just kind of came out, and then they moved on, and that particular chord was a product of those voices moving, not of the harmonic function, not of the chord progression.
Right.
And so we will say like diminished 7, we'll put parentheses around it to sort of signify that isn't moving.
You mentioned simultaneity?
Yeah, simultaneity. A simultaneity of the voices.
Okay.
The voices coalesce into this chord simultaneously at this time.
At this moment in time.
Yeah, kind of. And so normally that's a fully diminished 7 kind of thing. I want to say that it is also possible to do it with a dominant 7. In fact, I'm pretty sure it is. Don't absolutely quote me on that, but I think we can find examples of a dominant 7 chord simultaneity too. But in the chord progression we're writing here, first of all, if we go from F sharp dominant 7 to B dominant 7, this is not an issue because you're moving to another chord that has a major triad in it. If you were moving to the actual 7, that may be what I call it. As a simultaneity, just as a way to say, hey, I realize you can't you can't resolve a dominant chord to a diminished triad. That's not a thing. Just as a way of saying I recognize that. I might do that.
Right.
But yeah, bottom line is write the chords you want.
Yeah.
Let the theorists argue over it.
Yeah, right.
and yeah, the idea of we modulate it to a different key for the length of one chord. That's too complicated an explanation. I don't like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I concur.
All right.
Now,
Hope that answers his question. That's a good question.
Yeah, man, I hope so. And if not, just hit us back with the more clarification that you need.
Yeah,
really
it's an interesting sort of theory question.
It really is. It was a good question.
Yeah.
I didn't know the answer. I'm glad you did.
That's why I'm here.
That's why we got you here. Okay, so let's talk about this episode here.
Okay.
Here's my game plan. Like I said, we have a beautiful piece of music here by our friend Keith Andrews.
Okay.
One of our listeners. This is a listener composition he sent in to me.
All right.
And I thought, well, this will be great for the listener compositions episode.
Yes.
And then just an episode ago, someone asked about transcription.
Yes.
And I thought maybe this could have another purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of reasons we have a lot of people writing in with their compositions, a lot of really good stuff out here. The reason I wanted to use this one, for one thing, it's just I think it's a very beautiful piece of music. I love his voice. It's like a polished Bob Dylan, kind of John Prine kind of feel.
Kind of John Prine kind of thing, yeah.
The songwriting reminds me of that as well.
Yeah.
He uses some really good imagery,
Yeah.
which you're going to hear. And there's alliteration, which I'm a fan of.
Right, yeah.
The title is Dewey and Dora.
Yeah, and we could definitely do like a little aesthetic analysis of...
We absolutely will.
We could delve into that. But the purposes of this episode is I pretend that Keith comes to you and says, I recorded this song. Here's the recording. What I need from you is a lead sheet. I'll pay you $50. This is a thing that happens in the music world.
Right.
Like I said, I survived one summer off doing transcription work for people. So this is a thing that happens.
Yeah.
So first of all, you say yes. Whenever anybody offers you money, you say yes. You're a musician. And second, also, how do you do that? Right? How do you sit down and produce something that would be useful to Keith if he wanted to say, put together a band to play this song, and he could just give them, stuff, right?
Yes, which is what we're going to do today.
Yeah, and that's what a lead sheet is, and we've mentioned that in other episodes, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So a lead sheet is just, sometimes it'll just have slashes in the actual staff, and then sometimes it'll have the melody of the vocals, and then the lyrics underneath that, and then the chord changes will be written above the staff. So everybody can look at this and sort of know what's going on, whether you're playing the guitar or the bass, you can just look at this and know what's going on and when it's going on, and useful, right?
Yeah. But back to reasons I like this song.
But back to reasons we like this song.
Again, Dewey and Dora, I like the idea of a duet, like a team, like a kind of Bonnie and Clyde, Reuben and Cherise, Pancho and Lefty.
What was that John Cougar song?
Oh, Jack and
Diane.
Little story about Jack and Diane.
Yeah.
I just like that. I don't know why. It's got a very interesting little twist at the end. The ending is kind of left open-ended, so it kind of leaves it to your imagination. And it's got a good hook, too. Listen for Smooth Like a River Stone. That's what I think the hook is.
Yeah.
And it actually happens on a 4/5 progression.
Yeah.
4/5/1, I'm sorry. Smooth like a river stone. All right.
Okay.
So, without further ado, let's give this a listen.
Okay.
This is Dewey and Dora by Keith Andrews in the key of G.
1, 2, 3, 4. Dewey and Dora met in Spain. Dewey was waiting on an outbound train when Dora stepped in from the rain, smooth like a river stone, out the corners of two eyes, concerted flashes passing by. No sooner looked, but they sighed, smooth like a river stone. Dora was looking for a way to be. Dewey was seeking equanimity. Well, they were reaching where they couldn't see, smooth like a river stone. Alabaster chandeliers, bodega light. If it takes 100 years, this could be the night. East and west and up and down, on Spanish roads and Spanish towns, Dewey and Dora cast around, smooth like a river stone. Southwest of Aragon, this pilgrim and this earthly paragon, flashing days of halcyon, smooth like a river stone. Dora was looking for a way to be. Dewey was seeking equanimity. Well, they were reaching where they couldn't see, smooth like a river stone. Alabaster chandeliers, bodega lights. If it takes 100 years, this could be the night. Dora sits and stares sometimes when thoughts of Spain cross her mind. Days when all the stars align, smooth like a river stone. Dewey's pilgrim days wound down there one day, and that'd be the town. Dewey met David at the Lost and Found, smooth like a river stone. Dora was looking for a way to be. Dewey was seeking equanimity. Well, they were reaching where they couldn't see, smooth like a river stone. Alabaster chandeliers, bodega lights. If it takes 100 years, this could be the night. Dewey and Dora met in Spain.
What did you think, Matt?
That's a beautiful song,
Isn't it?
Yeah. Like I said, I could talk all day about just some of the subtext and what. It is always fascinating to me to look at to look at a good song and ask, well, what makes this a good song? It's not just some lyrics that we slapped over some chord changes. Somebody's thinking about how these things flow and how the music expresses the lyrics. You know?
Yeah.
I could do an episode on that. You know.
When I asked Keith what inspired him for this song, check out what he said.
Well, the name Dewey and Dora, actually, there's a couple, many years ago, I actually knew a couple named Dewey and Dora.
All right.
And the song bears no relation to them, but I had always just kind of carried their names around thinking, I can do something with that someday, the way that they sound together and everything. And then I had heard Paul Simon explaining how he wrote his song Renee and Georgette Magritte, that the story in the song really has nothing to do with Renee and Georgette Magritte. He just took their names and then created a story out of whole cloth. And so I had always thought about writing this Dewey and Dora song, but I didn't really know where to start or where to go with it. But then when I heard him saying that, I thought I'll just launch off and go wherever the story takes me. So I just it kind of came to me of them crossing paths in a train station, and then it just the story just told itself from there.
And so you see, not unlike the story of Dewey and Dora, his songwriting process actually began in this train station. He said, I just decided to take those two names, stick them together at the train station, and just see what happens. Just let it unfold organically.
Wow.
So that's what was kind of his process.
Nice.
So yeah, again, great job, Keith. Now, another reason I wanted to choose this song because it's pleasant enough to listen to, because we're going to have to listen to it several times.
Right, yeah. So this is when you're transcribing, this is kind of work.
Yeah.
You're not necessarily listening for pleasure anymore.
Exactly.
Although you still can be. But
well, this made it easy for me. It seemed less like work because, again, I enjoyed it so much.
Good song, yeah.
So I'll give you a quick little preview of the steps we're going to be using today. Again, this will probably be, this will probably be a 2-part episode.
Probably, yeah.
And here's how far I plan on getting today. Step 1, prep your notation paper.
Yes.
Step 2, find the key signature and time signature and tempo.
Yes.
Step 3, and write it down.
And write it
and use a pencil.
Ideally.
And use a pencil, by God. Step 3, we're going to map out the sections. We're going to determine intro, verse, chorus. If this was an orchestral score of some kind, we might be analyzing the form, calling it A section, B section, whatever.
Yeah.
A prime. But in this case, we're sticking to verse and chorus.
Yep.
I for intro, V for verse, C for chorus.
Yep.
And then step 4, we're going to figure out the chords and space them appropriately over the given measures. And that's probably all the time we'll get into. But by the end of this episode, you're going to have a chord chart that you can hand to any musician who knows how to read a chord chart, and they'll play this song. Yeah. But they'll play the chords based on what
and
they
then in part 2, we'll get into the melody of the lyrics.
Yeah,
and putting that in.
And I think that'll take a whole episode because we're gonna notate and find the note values and the rhythms, and we're gonna put it down on paper.
Yeah,
and,
this is where your ear training comes in.
This is where that ear training is gonna come in. But
oh, and it's going to come in here too, by the way.
Right.
In this first episode as well. But
right. I guess we won't be talking too hard. Well, yeah, we'll be talking theory. We'll be talking some theory.
We'll be talking a little theory.
You have to. It's a music.
Yeah,
theory
it's
podcast.
a music theory podcast. Number 1, and number 2, it does require a little bit of theory to do this.
Yeah, to be able to find out these answers, to be able to put it down on paper. What you hear, what you're hearing.
At least this is one of those episodes. This is one of those times when knowing a little theory will make this a lot easier.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Okay. So shall we begin?
Let's go.
Okay. First step doesn't really involve really listening to anything. You just prep your paper.
Yeah.
You're going to take your notation paper. And now, unfortunately, most of our episodes, people can just listen as they're driving down the interstate or mowing their lawn or whatever. But in this case, you might actually have to look on our website.
At some point.
We're going to do our damnedest.
Not while you're mowing your lawn. Finish mowing your lawn.
Yeah, you can run over your foot if you're not careful.
Yeah.
We're gonna do our best to visualize to kind of visualize this for you guys. But ultimately, what you want to do is get on the website musicstudent101.com. Go to episodes. Go to episode 76. This is episode 76. Transcribing a song, as you see on your phone or whatever. and you will see step 1. Okay, so here's what I've done. You will notice that I have actually taken a ruler. See on my straight lines?
Very nice straight lines.
Now, they're not all completely even. You see that I left the very left measure on each line a little bit longer than the rest of the measures. That's to make room for the key signature and for the time signature.
Right.
Fortunately, we're in the key of G, so that's just one little sharp. That doesn't take up a whole lot of space.
Yep.
You will see on the top left, very first measure, I have a double bar. That's just going to be there anyways because it's part of a signifying a section.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I just went ahead and put that there. And you'll also see where I put Dewey and Dora by Keith Andrews, title, and you want to credit the songwriter.
Yes.
And I left that top line blank. Sometimes I like to have that to separate. For one thing, if I started writing notes and chords, they might run into the title.
Right, yeah.
And also, maybe I want to leave some notes. Maybe this is where I can put the form of the song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just kind of did that to stay clean, to keep it kind of clean. And also, I left a little extra room on the very right measure for things like double bars, double dots, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, that's just some considerations to have. I went ahead and made it all the way down the page, went ahead and just started everything. That way, when I start listening to the music, I can start counting and just reading as I go.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it probably goes without saying that if you're using notation software, a lot of them will set these kind of things up for you pretty quickly and easily.
Yeah. I use MuseScore for a lot of my notation.
MuseScore is a good one. That's freeware.
It's freeware, totally, and it has a lead sheet type format.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much step 1.
Yeah.
Prep your paper. Step 2. Now we're going to get into a little bit of listening here. Okay. We want to figure out the key signature,
the time signature, and the tempo.
Okay. So first off, what do you think? Key signature? You want to do that first?
Yeah. Now we've already sort of spoiled it a little bit. We figured out that this is in G.
We did.
But how did we figure that out?
Let's see here. The song starts.
Yeah.
That's G, B7, C, G.
Yeah.
Because we figured. I'd like to think I figured out the chords, but actually Keith had a few corrections for me, which we're going to talk about later on. I am not a theory. I'm not the ear training genius I come across. I don't even think I come across anymore. I think I've been busted enough times. I'm just sharing the information.
Well, but this is ability applied to time. The more ability you have, the less time. But the less time you have, the more ability you need.
Interesting, huh?
Right? Yeah.
Interesting. So anyways, for the reasons that this song begins and ends in a G chord.
That's one thing, yeah.
The hook we were talking about. Smooth like a river stone. That is 4, 5, 1 in the key of G.
Right, yeah. And that, to me, is a more powerful signifier of the key of G than just the fact that it begins and ends on a G chord.
This is true.
Things can begin in a chord that's not the tonic chord.
Yes, it
happens all the time.
It can be an E minor. It could be in any key.
Yeah, things can end. Especially when you're talking about popular music. Things can end on a chord that is not the tonic chord.
Right.
So I mean that's a good clue, but it's not this is in G because of the first and last chord. To me, the reason we think it's in G is 1, 4, 5, 1 in G, right? There I'm noticing some 2, 5, 1s in G, A minor to D to G. That pulls us into G. It's going to be hard to hear it not in G after that chord progression.
Yeah.
Right. So how did we figure that out in the first place, though? How did we figure out any of those chords?
Well, I just picked up my guitar and played along because I can play guitar and I have a decent ear, right?
Yeah. That's my process too. I will pick up either my bass or my guitar or my keyboard, and there's a process. The first couple of times you're hearing a song, and I'll listen through it a couple of times, and then I'll sit down and go, oh, okay, no. Maybe it's no. Yeah, there you go, right there. So then you start sort of forming what you know around that, right? Once the song is in your head, this is ear training, right? So, you can once you're oriented, you can start picking things out in their relation to do, really, in their relation to scale degree 1. But that initial finding what scale you're in, because I do not have perfect pitch. If you do, God bless you. But I do not, so I have to spend a little time. Nope.
Hunt and peck.
Little hunting and pecking, yeah.
Trial and error.
Pecking, yeah.
Yeah.
Till I find the key that sounded right.
And sometimes, then this may or may not be worth mentioning. Sometimes when you hear a song on a guitar, if you play guitar, you kind of you can tell the difference between this kind of G.
Yeah.
And that, you can tell where the open strings are being used.
You can tell when the open strings are being used. You can tell when, those basic chords, they have a certain sonority.
Yeah, certain keys. Yeah, certain chords sound better for guitar.
First position fingerings on the guitar. You get to where you kind of know what that sounds like. I find that has started happening to me with the bass. Like I know what the E string sounds like, right? Or the A string sounds like.
Yeah.
It's just kind of got that character, and then it comes from having heard it all the time.
Had it vibrating against your chest
a couple of times, yeah. So that's as close to perfect pitch as I'll ever get.
Yeah, right. Now let's talk about do you think that satisfies our?
I think that's pretty satisfying. Yeah. Let's and we can always change if we decide later it wasn't in G, but for right now, let's say it's in G.
Yes, we might get deep into the song and be like, wow, this first line was
especially when I'm here.
Yeah. Look out, y'all.
Jeremy thinks he's got this all on lock, and then I come in and I've got a bad habit of going, you know what? When you look at this, and you see Jeremy kind of go,
throwing chaos into my world. Good chaos, not bad chaos. Okay, so so now let's figure out the time signature. Let's figure out what kind of a beat this is in. What time signature?
And that's interesting because listening to it doesn't feel. It doesn't feel like very restrained. It feels kind of flowing, right? And it doesn't feel like it's necessarily just 4 on the floor,
yes,
right? So it feels like maybe there's something interesting going on with the time signature.
It's almost like he's added a couple of extra beats in there to be more conversational. There's a kind of a sighing quality to it.
Yeah.
Like, Dewey and Dora met in Spain. It's kind of like a little slice of life. Wonder how this is going to go.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of a caesura, a little bit of a pause.
Yeah.
Kind of maybe a pensive.
Yeah.
Reflective.
Yeah. All of which doesn't really help us when we need to find a time signature. Just like count the beats, man. Come on.
Well, let's do that. Let's do that, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to give this a quick listen, and we're just going to basically confirm that we're in 4.
Okay.
And I'll be trying to count in 4 as we go.
Okay.
And there's going to be one little place where it gets weird.
Okay.
But we'll talk about that, okay?
Okay.
This is just the intro.
Okay.
Keith is going to count us off, and I shall resume the count.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah. So I caught that time where we only made it to 2.
Yes. And I could have handled that one of 2 ways. I could have done a measure of 4 and then a quick measure of 2.
Yes.
But I decided to keep it simpler and just make that a measure of 6.
A measure of 6.
So
we've got just a couple of little beats worth of a pause there. Yeah.
And we're going to get into that more when we map this out.
Yeah.
But I think it's safe to say that this is in 4. It's certainly not in a waltz.
Certainly not in 3.
It ain't
no kind of 3. It's no kind of compound time. No.
Nope.
So, I feel pretty safe calling this 4.
Yes.
So depending, when I hear this, I almost heard like the way Keith was counting as 16th notes. So almost like 1 Eana, 2 Eana, 3 Eana, 4 Eana, right? I think the way you counted it is probably more right because that's like the whole line of lyrics and it's only one measure, If this was a Bach toccata, then there's 4 chords in one measure. Yeah, no, that's totally.
Yeah.
But given the style and everything, I think you and Keith have probably got the better idea.
Well, because if I just said 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
1, 2. Yeah, like you said, I would have to have all these words squished up in one little measure.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to break it up a little more so it's a little cleaner, a little less cluttered, I guess.
Yeah, we'd have had a lead sheet with like 8 measures on it.
Now,
And a whole bunch of words in one. Yeah, and that's probably not helping us as much as the way you did it.
well, the ideal situation would put everything on one page, so there's no page turning during
Right,
the song,
yeah.
during the performance.
Yeah, or at the very most 2 pages, so you could just set 1 page and 1 page on a
Yeah.
stand or something. Yeah.
Well, ideally, you just have it in your head and not need to have.
Yeah,
This
in
is
an
the
ideal
difference
world,
between-
you've had time to learn the music. Yeah, but
It's the difference between playing in an orchestra where you're expected to have a sheet music up there and playing on stage or something where
yeah,
having it papers on stage can be a little bush league, I think. But I still do it. Yeah, I still do it. Don't get me wrong.
I don't. Well, maybe
try not
maybe
to.
it's my classical music background. I don't consider that bush league. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I look at that and go, oh wow, that guy can read something, even if it's just a lead sheet. He's reading something.
True that. True that.
And not just memorized where his fingers go, you know.
In terms of the overall stage appearance, the aesthetic of the band on stage. You can't thrash around. You might knock over your music stand. Okay, I'm sorry. Let's get back into this.
Okay, we're digressing. Let's.
We're getting back into tempo here because I didn't learn tempo training. I don't think was not a part of my oral skills.
Yeah, not so much.
However, I have a solution. Now, of course, what is it? Stayin' Alive by the Bee Gees is 103 BPM, beats per minute. I think everyone's pretty familiar with that groove.
That's what they say. 2, 3, 4, 1 and a 2 and 3 and a 4 and 1, 2. Yeah.
Also, the recommended CPR
Yeah, right.
rhythms.
Yeah.
But anyways, this is a little quicker. The way we're counting it. Dewey and Dora met in Spain. Now, what I have here on my phone, I have this app, and I think it was free. It's called Tap the Beat.
Ah, very nice.
You can see right here,
Yeah.
there's this little button here, okay? And as I play, as I would be snapping, instead I'm
Yeah.
going to be tapping on the phone. So, and as I do that, it shows me an average of
Yeah.
every tap in between. So it's kind of averaging out as you go.
Yeah.
So here's, just to give you an idea, I'm tapping here.
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. See, I'm tapping.
Yeah.
Tapping along with Keith. And it's registering at about 150. It's averaging out about 150.
Averaging it. Yeah, because, a human tapping, we're never going to keep an exactly correct tempo. A human playing, for that matter.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're never going to keep an exact tempo. So it's averaging out at 150, which is about what I would say. If you don't have that cool app that Jeremy has, you can always sit down with a metronome and just kind of hunt and peck until you've got about what the tempo feels like.
Exactly. So, what you will see when you look at step 2 on the website, you will see that I have made a change. Now we have the key signature.
Yes,
We have all the way down the page. I went ahead and put it on every line because I think that's the standard thing to do, is it not?
that is the standard thing to do.
And then I have 1 sharp there. That's the F sharp. That is the only sharp in the key of G.
Exactly.
You will also see on the top left, I have added a time signature. I have
Indeed.
4/4.
Mm-hmm.
That is 4 beats per measure, 4 quarter notes per measure. In this case, they are fast quarter notes.
They're pretty fast. Quarter note equals 150, we've decided.
Yes, and you'll see that as well on the top of the page. Quarter note equals 150 BPM based on the rhythms I was tapping on my cool little app.
Nice.
So I think that's it for the time signature,
Yeah.
all that stuff.
We've got
key
all that
signature.
stuff.
That was step 2.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going to move on to step 3.
This is where it starts to get fun.
Yeah. So step 3, we're going to go ahead and do what is called mapping it. We're going to kind of map out the sections.
Yeah.
If this was an orchestral or a symphony or something like that, a classical piece of music, I guess we'd be calling it, this would be like the form analysis part. Right?
Yeah, depending on how deep you wanted to get into it.
Yeah. But in this case, it's just a song, a singer and a guitar. So we're going to call this intro,
Right?
verse, and chorus.
Chorus.
So you will see on the top of the page where I have an I circled for intro.
Right?
And you will also see where we have decided where these little time changes occur, these meter changes.
Yes.
So let me go ahead and play this, and I'll count along
Okay.
while you read.
Okay.
While we read.
While we read.
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, 2, 3, 4, 7, 2, 3, 4, 8, 2, 3, 4, 9, 2, 3, 4, 10, 2, 3, 4.
All right.
And then we're into the verse.
So it sounds like we have a 10-measure intro.
10 measures.
Very good job counting the 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3.
That was hard.
That takes some practice. The first couple of times you try to do that, you will lose count a lot.
Yes. Thank you. So we saw where we had 4 measures of 4. Then that 5th measure is actually a measure of 6.
Mm-hmm.
And then we resume in 4. So we had to go ahead and notate that.
Right. And
4.
so what we're looking at on the page here is a new time signature at that measure, which is a time signature of 6/4.
Mm-hmm.
6 beats to the measure, and the quarter note gets the beat.
Yeah.
And immediately following that measure, the time signature reverts back. So we have that original time signature of 4/4 rewritten on the measure immediately following that.
Exactly.
So we have a measure of 6/4, and then we go back to a measure of 4/4.
Right.
And that'll happen a couple of other times. There's a couple of other measures of 6 in here.
And speaking of which, just in case I didn't get this earlier, we will see that the intro stands alone. It doesn't come back at any point in the song.
Okay.
So we just have it as this one little piece, one little section at the top of the
beginning.
page.
Okay.
And you will see where I have double lines at the very top of this page by the I.
Yeah, right up under the treble clef sign.
Exactly. Right over it, rather.
Right over it.
And then we have double lines on the end of the 10th measure.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So that is to signify that this is one section, stands alone.
Demarcating the intro.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now we're going to move on down to the verse.
Okay.
Okay? And hopefully give this a listen as well, because we will see where we have mapped out also these little time changes.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try like hell again to count these as he plays. It might be weird because he's going to be singing while I'm counting. But
well, we'll see what happens.
Educational purposes here. Okay, you ready? This is the verse here.
Yeah.
You will notice I will start with the measure of 6 and then immediately resume back to 4 for 2 measures and then 6. There's a repeating pattern here.
There's a pattern here.
It's a measure of 6 followed by 2 measures of 4.
Yep.
It happens again and then again, and then it stays in 4 for the rest of the section. Okay? So let's listen and let's count, shall we?
Yes.
This is how I came up with these little numbers. Here we go, Keith. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5, 2, 3, 4, 6, 2, 3, 4, 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 2, 3, 4, 9, 2, 3, 4, 10, 2, 3, 4, 11, 2, 3, 4, 12, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
And then we go back up to the same line, right? So how do we know to do that? I have down here on the end of the 12th measure of this section, I have double bars and double dots.
Yeah.
What is the double dots?
That is a repeat sign. It means go back and repeat what you just played.
Or rather repeat to the last double dots, right?
Right. So you go back to where you saw the first set of double dots, which by the way is at the beginning of the verse there.
Measure 11.
Yeah. And you play that section and close by those 2 dots again.
Exactly. So we see that the verse 1 in its entirety, or the verse section in its entirety, actually has 2 repeated stanzas.
Yeah.
But musically they're the same, so we don't have to do anything.
We can save some paper here.
Saving paper. Because ideally you want to get it all on one sheet of paper, right?
Ideally, yeah.
Or 2 at the most. So you don't have to do any flipping during
Right.
if you are reading it off during a performance.
Yeah. Or a recording session. Good Lord, your producer will kill you.
No kidding. Or just straight out fire you.
Yeah, or fire you. Yeah, that's much more likely.
Okay, now we're going to talk about the chorus.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the chorus to me, really musically what's happening is really kind of 3 different things. We got the verse happening, and then we had kind of like what almost seems like it could be a bridge leading into the chorus.
Yeah.
If we were to say that alabaster chandeliers, bodega lights, if we were to say that was the chorus, then there would be kind of a bridge. But I'm going to be simple. I'm going to simplify this and just call the whole thing the chorus from the moment he goes to that C chord.
Okay.
Dora was looking for a way to be. Dewey was seeking all the way through to the alabaster chandeliers and through the end of the song up until it comes back to the verse. I'm going to call that the chorus. Okay?
Okay.
So, again, watch, listen, and count with me.
Okay.
We'll get a little lead in here.
Smooth like a river stone. Dora was
1,
looking for
2,
a
3,
way to
4,
be.
2, 2, 3,
Dewey
4,
was
3, 2,
sequin,
3,
echo, and
4,
amity.
4, 2, 3,
Well, they
4,
were
5,
reaching
2,
where they
3,
couldn't
4, 6, 2,
see.
3, 4, 7, 2, 3, 4, 8, 2,
Smooth like a
3,
river
4, 9, 2, 3, 4, 10, 2, 3, 4, 11, 2, 3, 4, 12, 2, 3, 4, 13, 2, 3, 4, 14, 2, 3, 4, 15, 2, 3, 4, 16, 2, 3, 4, 17, 2, 18, 2, 3, 4, 19, 2, 3, 4, 20.
Nice work.
So 19 measures, all in 4.
Yeah.
No funny stuff.
No funny stuff
No
this
funny
time.
stuff.
And that's, again, sort of a testament to good songwriting. You know, the funny stuff tends to happen in the verse. Choruses tend to be more straightforward, right?
Yeah, because people want to be able to sing along. You know, you want people to be able to sing along or
Yeah.
have a kind of a recognizable thing.
Yeah. I would think of that as a bridge in the chorus if it were me.
Yeah.
But you know.
Now, in my head, I kind of do, but on paper, I think I wanted to simplify it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just for the sake of,
Right.
instead of having intro, verse, bridge, chorus, all
Yeah.
on one piece of paper. But it would have made perfect sense if I had done that.
Yeah.
It would have been acceptable.
Yeah.
And possibly giving a little more information.
Yeah, possibly.
Possibly.
Yeah. The important thing is you know, we're getting a sense of the structure of the song here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And you can see how doing this kind of thing, if you just sit down and start thinking, okay, well, what's the first chord? You may be making it a little hard for yourself. You know, that these little sort of introductory steps. Figure out the you know, we'll prepare your paper and then get the key and the time and the tempo and then map out. Okay, this is the intro and the verse, and the chorus. You know. And we're kind of zeroing in, getting a little more detailed every single time, right? And this is going to make it a lot easier, actually, when we do start trying to figure out chords than if we had just sat down and the first time we started listening going, okay, what's this chord and that chord and this chord?
Hey, you know, on that note, here's another cool thing that I kind of thought about while we're doing this. One of the reasons I'm starting off, or one of the helpful things about starting off with the meter and the mapping out and the prepping and all that stuff, is while you're doing this, you're still listening.
You're still hearing those chords,
and
yeah.
over.
It's getting in your head.
It's sinking in as we're doing all these other, paying attention to these other parts of the music.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, having said that,
Yeah.
I think it's time to move on to step 4.
Step 4, figure out the chords.
Mm-hmm. This is where I called Keith up and talked to him about this, and he corrected me a couple of times, and I'll show you where they are.
Okay.
It's gonna be kind of fun.
Okay.
Lucy in North London, and Nancy Mitchell, and anyone else who's challenged my ears.
I know all our listeners are better at ear training than Jeremy.
Which is probably thousands. I hope there's thousands. So anyways, okay, so here's what I did. You know, I kind of sat down with my guitar, played a nice G
And we
chord.
established already this was kind of G.
Yeah, and you know, I've gotten to where I can, you know, how I said I really dig those mediant chords or submediants. I've gotten to where I can really kind of recognize them pretty
Oh,
good.
that's great.
Yeah, but there was a funny thing, like if we were in the key of G major,
Yeah.
the 3 chord would have been a minor chord.
Yeah.
However, I didn't hear a minor. I heard something funny going on. So what he has done, I messed around a little bit and finally found that this B7 works.
Yeah.
So we got a G going to a B7,
Yeah.
to a C, back to 1, back to the G.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So how did you figure that out? Was it just trial and error?
It was a little bit of trial. Actually, no, I knew it was either as soon as I knew it wasn't a B minor,
Yeah.
I just figured it's probably a B major. 'Cause
Probably. Let's try B major. Yeah.
that was my next choice. And then
Yeah.
of course the 7th, because it had
It's got that 7th chord quality
the
to it.
crunchy,
Yeah.
the crunch. Yeah.
I think I'd have probably noticed that 7 chord quality first if it was me. Everybody's a little different.
Right.
And I would have probably spent time trying to figure out what 7 chord.
Uh-huh.
You know, because mediant is perfectly logical. It's a tonic substitution, right? So this is just sort of stating the tonic in a different way.
So I had no problem with that part.
Yeah.
Now this is where Keith tricked me. This is where I got hoodwinked. This is one of many times where I got hoodwinked.
Okay.
So we got the first line, right?
Yep.
Dewey and Dora met in Spain.
Yeah.
I thought it might have been Dewey was
C,
waiting
A minor.
on an outbound train.
Yeah,
G to G.
D, yeah.
However, what I thought was that A minor 7 chord because I heard this little G note in there.
Yeah.
He was actually just holding on to the C.
Okay.
Dewey was waiting, and then he puts the G in the bass.
Okay.
So there was a prominent G going on there.
Yeah, 4-6-4.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
A 4 chord with the 5th of the chord in the bass.
Yep.
So he's going na 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 G D. I can definitely hear that 5 when I hear that.
Yeah.
When I hear that kind of break.
Yeah, for me, I would have heard that 5. This is the thing about hearing the phrases.
Mm-hmm.
This is why it was so important for us to mark out intro, verse, and chorus, and have a sense of where our phrases are. Right. I would have definitely heard that 5. That's a 5. That's a half cadence.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely would have heard that.
Yeah.
And yeah, if it was me, I would have maybe also wanted A minor. I mean, A minor definitely works. Actually, it doesn't work that much if you think about the melody. But so he's just holding C.
Yeah. Dewey was waiting on an outbound train.
So what he's doing, theory-wise, here is so he's got 4, which becomes 6-4, which I say becomes cadential motion 5-6-4 to 5-3. So 1-6-4, right? Sort of. Yeah. Except
With that little with the 1 stuck in there real quick.
Yeah.
For effect, I guess.
That 1 stuck in there real quick is a type of 1-6-4 to 5-7.
Yes, okay.
Harmonic function wise, this is sort of cadential motion.
Okay.
This is like kind of going see if I can do this on the fly. So this is in a way kind of like going. Kind of like that. We're just not getting that F sharp because getting an F sharp in that chord would have been hard.
Yeah.
So but.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's an interesting little chord progression there. Kind of like a pedal tonic note, kind of pedal 6-4, a 4-6-4 ped, moving to 1, 1-5-3 with the pedal tone, and then 5-7 it breaks.
The pedal tone being the constant note that kind of drones all the way through, that kind of plays all the way through.
Yeah.
That doesn't move. It just stays in one place.
Yeah. And that pedal tone is G. But all right, done.
Okay. Now, we got the first 2 lines, right?
Yeah.
We got Dewey and Dora met in Spain. Dewey was waiting on an outbound train. And now the 3rd line, fortunately, is just the same thing as the first line.
Yeah.
When Dora stepped in from the rain. And then at the very last part, we have our, what I call the hook.
Yeah, the
smooth like a river stone.
4-5-1.
4-5-1. Which again solidifies us in the key of G. If we ever had any questions earlier,
If we have any, we probably don't have much question by that point. But yeah,
we feel pretty well.
I will feel pretty confident in G now.
Okay, so there we go. That's the verse. That happens twice, and then we're gonna move on to the chorus.
Okay.
What I consider the chorus.
Yeah.
So, again, I've kind of gotten to where I can recognize the 4 chord, especially if it comes right after the 1 chord.
Yeah. You play enough blues, you play enough rock, you play enough anything, and 1-4 is going to be a progression that sounds. It's one of those musical idioms that you'll have in your ears.
And not to mention, we just kind of heard it, so it goes smooth like a river stone.
Yeah.
And then Dora was looking for a way to B. That's 4-1. C to G.
Yeah.
And then this, again, this thing caught me a little bit, but I found, after a little bit of trial and error, that B7 chord.
Again, a chord we've heard before.
But this time it actually serves its function because in the key of G major, that B would normally be minor, but again, we have a B7 dominant chord.
Yeah.
And this time it actually does what a dominant 7 chord would do.
Yeah.
And I could hear that.
So 5 of 6.
5 of 6.
Moving to 6.
To 6, okay?
Good old diatonic E minor. Isn't that great? You know, I talk about what makes good songwriting. Right? Not just splashing chords over lyrics, but you know, the first time you hear that B, it's a B dominant 7. You know, and it just goes to 4.
Right.
Yeah, and you think, well, why wouldn't that at least be minor diatonic, right? Yeah, why are you overcomplicating things? Well, the chords are sort of making a promise in the verse that is going to keep in the chorus, right? You're going to hear this B7, it's like, don't worry. This B7 is going to resolve the way you want it to resolve, just not right now.
Yeah, a little bit of tension maybe.
Yeah.
A little bit of stick around for the next...
Stick around for Yeah. And then when you get that on the word equanimity, what does the word equanimity mean?
I learned a new word. Equanimity. You know, I love a good wordsmith, and Keith Andrews is certainly that. Equanimity is like inner peace, balance.
Equanimity, balance,
it's
inner
a search
peace.
for, though, so it's kind of left open-ended. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
and it is associated with the resolution of this B7 chord, right? So we have the resolution of this chord on the word equanimity. Isn't that great?
Yeah, it is, actually.
Yeah. So you feel this equanimity, right? You feel it, and it's not just splashing chords over words and hoping it makes a good song. You know, there are things going on here that's making it a good song.
Exactly, the music working with the words.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see here. What else we got? Okay, so Dora was looking for a way to be C to G.
Yes.
Dewey was seeking that's B7 equanimity to E minor. And then, now here's where he got me also. Because I thought that after that E minor, again, I thought I was going to hear an A7, A minor 7 chord.
Yeah.
But Sneaky Keith, he gave me a C minor.
C minor.
Ha-ha.
Wow.
In the key of G.
What would that be in the key? What would C minor be in the key of G? Tonality-wise.
I feel like I would just call it a borrowed chord.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Pretty much.
Borrowed from G minor.
Yeah.
It's parallel.
Yeah, that would be a borrowed 4 chord. I would be pretty comfortable calling it that.
And it does go to 5 afterwards.
It does indeed.
So that's a D. So it's like, again, looking for a way to be. B7 is seeking equanimity.
Yeah.
Reaching where they couldn't see.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it doesn't go to D, it goes to A.
It goes to A, yeah. So, but that is 2 predominant chords, right? Borrowed 4 to either 2 or 5 or 5. I guess it's 5 or 5. Yeah, so 2 predominant chords there in a row. You know? So we're in the predominant stage of our harmonic function.
Exactly. And then it goes straight from that A to back to our little hook. Smooth like a river stone.
Yeah. So actually, C minor to A and then C major. So we're working our way up to our traditional predominant 4 chord, and then we can move on. Okay.
Exactly.
I'll stop talking about theory now. I'm sorry.
That's why we're here.
It just comes out of my mouth, and you know.
That's the part of the process that we're using to learn these chords. You know.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But you know, if you can hear the way these things function, then you're not just picking chords until you find the right one, right? You have a sense of how this is of how these chords flow to G eventually. So you know it's going to be something of a predominant function, right? Until you hit the dominant. So you're not just picking around,
right?
Yeah, so it is helpful to keep you from going, all right, well, that's not the right chord. That's not the right chord. Yeah, you can get it within a couple of 3 different possibilities, and then pick around between 1 or 2 or 3.
And that was definitely the case with what happened for the second half of the chorus when we go into Alabaster Chandeliers.
Yeah.
I could hear a minor chord. I definitely heard a minor chord.
Definitely heard a minor chord.
And there's been a few other little minor chords peppered here and there.
Yeah.
But this is kind of an important part. Alabaster Chandeliers.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Alabaster Chandeliers.
Yeah.
So I knew it was probably not E minor because it sounded to me more like a More like a. How the hell did I know that was an A minor?
Well, for one thing, you've heard an E minor chord.
Yes, we have heard an E minor during the song, actually.
Yeah.
And that was not it.
And that was not it. So
Yeah.
that's a different minor chord.
Something new is happening here.
Yeah, that would probably be the most challenging part of this transcription-wise, because transcription-wise, we are kind of starting over again when we get to that Alabaster Chandeliers lyric. That's a chord we have not yet seen,
Right.
A minor,
Exactly.
which is the diatonic 2 chord. We've been seeing 5 of 5s.
Yes.
But again, if you know the function, then you know that something interesting is going on. But yeah, this would have been a part where I'd have probably had to pick around until I found that A minor chord. Honestly.
And pick around I did, and consult Keith I did as well afterwards, after the fact. So that's one way to find the chords. Just call the songwriter and say,
That's
what did you
one
do
way,
here?
yeah.
What the hell did you do?
That's one way.
But if Keith was not accessible as he was, then I would have to be doing this as I did before.
Break
I
out
taught
the
him.
bass. Yeah. I mean, pick out around just one note, And if you can find that one note, A, okay, so that chord's got an A in the bass, so that's going to eliminate all kinds of possibilities. So it's like, so maybe it's A minor, maybe it's A major, maybe it's, D over A, E sus4, but it's not that weird, right? So A minor is going to shine as the most likely possibility, once that goes.
So let's continue, shall we? So we have the A minor.
Yes.
Na, 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 na. There's our B7 again.
Yeah, that B7, man.
And then
the B7 is resolving properly these days.
the good old
E minor,
like it
6.
did earlier.
Yeah.
And then, so we got the A minor, Alabaster, B7, Chandeliers. There's that E minor again. Now here's a funny C7. Or rather, that's where I thought I also heard an A minor 7 chord. I just wanted to hear this A minor 7. But hey, a C7 is not that far off the mark, right? Because I still have the C and the E note, which are common tones to both chords.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're only missing one note. You only added one note that you didn't actually hear.
Right, because there's the G in there too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, was I really that far off?
Was not really that far,
So again, what we got? A minor, which I think we decided is a 2.
Yeah.
To this kind of borrowed 5 of 3.
Yeah.
To 3.
Yeah.
And then to a 4/7 chord.
Yeah.
A 4 dominant 7 chord.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Which then goes to, again, A.
Yeah.
Na 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 na. Na na na. No, no, no. That's a C minor. There's our friend C minor again.
Borrowed 4 chord.
And this time, straight to D.
Straight to D. And we've made it through the chorus.
And we made it through the chorus.
So just as a recap, the first part of that chorus, C, G, and then a B7 and E minor on the word equanimity.
Yeah.
That B7 resolving for the first time. And then C minor to A.
Yep.
And then C, D, G on Smooth Like a River Stone. And then was probably the most challenging transcription part of it, because you're kind of starting from scratch a little bit. A minor, B7, E minor, C7, and then A minor, B7 again, and then C minor, D, ending on that half cadence. This is going to carry us back into the verse.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So, and yeah, those last 4 lines, definitely the most challenging. And again, if I was tasked with transcribing this, I would probably be starting a little from scratch there. I might be going back to my picking out thing at the beginning of, and go, nope, because that is sort of in a completely different place. As a good chorus ought to be, right? I mean, this is not an aesthetic criticism. This is just, saying that from picking out the chords, we're kind of starting over a little bit there. A little bit. We've still got some chords we've heard before, and that'll help us.
Right. So, that takes us through the whole song. Let me go ahead and do this chorus one more time, and we'll just talk the chords through as we go.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
So Dora was 4
4
to 1.
1.
Borrowed.
D was B7.
Yeah, 5 of 3.
Yeah, to 3, equanimity, E minor.
C minor.
C minor.
Borrowed from the parallel G minor.
Where they couldn't see.
Where they couldn't see.
Yeah.
That's an A major, which is...
A major. And is that the first time we've gotten that chord?
Yes, that is a kind of a borrowed, like a 5...
It's a 5 of 5.
5 of 5, yeah.
Yeah. And that's the first time we have gotten exactly that chord, that 5 of 5.
Of course, it doesn't go to 5, right? It goes to smooth like a river stone.
It kind of goes to 5.
Yeah, because
with a C in between.
Just a little C in between.
A little C substitution.
Yeah. So we can still consider that to be a proper, I guess.
Yeah. I like that the first time we see that chord, couldn't see. So again, good songwriting, right? We're pushed away into, it's like, well, here's this chord I haven't seen, quote unquote, before, right? It gives it a feeling of truth on that line. Couldn't see. That line becomes an important line because we get a new chord there, right? And then smooth like a river stone. Good. I'll shut up about it.
4, 5, 1. Okay, and then moving on, we go to alabaster chandelier. So we got a 2, diatonic 2.
Diatonic 2.
And then to this crazy chandeliers.
5 of 3.
5 of 3, which actually goes to
3. Yeah.
And then this funny little dominant 4 chord.
Yeah.
Which we decided was...
Is kind of, so the A minor to that B7. Resolving properly to E minor, right? And then to C7. That it technically it's a 5, 7, a 4, but I would think of it as an extension of the E minor that came before it, right? We're just adding a C to it. Right, yeah?
Making it prettier.
Yeah, so from E, G, and B, we add C and have C, E, G, and B. So I would consider it all, just sort of an extension of that E minor, which itself then moves to A minor, right? So 6, 2, Yeah.
Okay, so that's the story with that.
Yeah.
And so the next chord is the A minor.
Is A minor.
Back to good old 5 of 3.
5 of 3.
But this time, we
yeah,
have this C minor, which I think we decided was just a
borrowed 4 chord.
4 chord from the parallel minor.
Yeah.
G minor.
Yeah.
And then somehow that went very well to the D.
Yeah. Well, 4 or 5.
4 to 5, yeah, but still even being borrowed.
Well, even still, the function doesn't change.
The bass would be doing the same thing, or
Yeah,
I guess.
And that B7, so we go A minor, B7, C minor. That B7 is just making a chord around a passing tone, right? A, B, C.
Yeah. So that takes us through the whole song.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm gonna do is we're gonna play this again.
Okay.
You look at the step 4 graphic on the website and look at the chords above. You'll see where they fit.
Yeah.
Notice what I did was, whenever you're putting chords over a measure, if we're in 4/4 count and I put 2 chords over a measure, it's kind of assumed that each one receives 2 beats, right?
Yeah.
And this measure of 6/4 that you see at the top of the verse, you will see there are 3 chords over each measure. Because I didn't distinguish otherwise, we are to assume that is 2 beats.
2 beats,
still.
2 beats, and 2 beats.
Exactly. Divided up evenly, as it goes. So that kind of gives you a little idea of what to look for.
If that was not what we should have assumed, then we would have specified in other ways.
Yes.
And when the lyrics come in, it's going to be easier because, the chords are going to go over the note of the melody that represents the chord change.
Exactly.
And that's part 2.
That is part 2. So again, now that we have all the information here, we have everything we need to basically give someone a chord chart and have them play along. We don't have the melody. They would be able to accompany us with chords, but give this a listen one more time.
Yep.
And read along and see what you guys think.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4. Dewey and Dora met in Spain. Dewey was waiting on an outbound train when Dora stepped in from the rain. smooth like a river stone. Out two corners of two eyes, concerted flashes passing by. No sooner looked but they sighed, smooth like a river stone. Dora was looking for a way to be. Dewey was seeking equanimity. Well, they were reaching where they couldn't see, smooth like a river stone. Alabaster chandeliers, bodega light. If it takes 100 years, this could be the night. East and west and up and down, on Spanish roads and Spanish towns, Dewey and Dora cast around, smooth like a river stone. Southwest of Aragon, this pilgrim and this earthly paragon, flashing days of halcyon, smooth like a river stone. Dora was looking for a way to be. Dewey was seeking equanimity. Well, they were reaching where they couldn't see, smooth like a river stone. Alabaster chandeliers, bodega lights. If it takes 100 years, this could be the night. Dora sits and stares sometimes when thoughts of Spain cross her mind. Days when all the stars align, smooth like a river stone. Dewey's pilgrim days wound down there one day, and that'd be the town when Dewey met David at the Lost and Found, smooth like a river stone. Dora was looking for a way to be. Dewey was seeking equanimity. Well, they were reaching where they couldn't see, smooth like a river stone. Alabaster chandeliers, bodega lights. If it takes 100 years, this could be the night. Dewey and Dora met in Spain.
So there you go. I think that was a lot of fun, Matt. What do you think, man?
I think that was a lot of fun too. I think this is a good song.
Yeah.
And I always think it's a good song when it inspires me to think, oh, look at that chord. You know, there's a couple of little weird chords in there, and that always sort of makes me think, well, what's going on with that chord? You know, why is that there? And then in a lot of instances, that was kind of explained to me eventually. So
kind of grabs your attention, kind of your ears perk up.
Yeah.
Hey, here's a funny thing. I think I've mentioned this before as well, but I'm so rarely listening to lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until I actually had them written in front of me and read along that I could, honestly, no, the first time his voice was so clear, it was kind of easy to hear what the story was.
Yeah.
But typically my mind goes to the music. My ear goes to the music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The lyrics kind of come after the fact.
Yeah.
But in this case, that didn't so much happen because it really just kind of...
I think, yeah. It depends on the song for me. I think my ears kind of go to the melody first a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
Unless the chord changes are just very simple, and these weren't necessarily that simple. You know, this is pretty sublime in some places.
Very much.
But yeah, different people do this different ways. Obviously, you can tell by our little process here that this is not just do this and that, the other thing, and then you'll plot out the chorus perfectly. This is a little bit of hunting and peck. It's a little bit of trial and error. It's a little bit of trusting your ear and then analyzing your ear.
And bear in mind as you look at these graphics that there's no. I mean, there might be a couple of standardized ways to do this lead sheet kind of format.
Yeah.
But this is still kind of my Jeremy guerrilla chord chart.
Yeah,
tactics.
it's kind of amalgamation of a couple of different
Yeah.
styles. Yeah, well, we did a podcast about that, right?
We
Lead
did.
sheets? Yeah.
And we are actually going to do another one at some point. We need to hit that Nashville number system.
Oh, man, that thing. Yeah.
Okay, so that's gotten as far enough to have kind of the beginning of a great lead sheet and a chord chart at the very least that you can hand to another musician who could play accompaniment.
Yeah.
If you wanted to this song. They have all the parts there, have everything they need. Let's recap real quick our process that we did.
Okay.
Step 1, prep your paper.
Yes.
You don't want to be sitting there listening to the song and drawing lines as you go and erasing. And all
Yeah,
that
that will never work.
Yeah, use a pencil, speaking of erasing.
For God's sake.
You can't tell by the scans, but I did use pencil. Step 2, you want key signatures. You want to try and find out your key signature, what key it's in.
Right.
The time signature, what meter it's in.
Yeah, and this is a sort of just applying your musicianship skills, hunt and peck a little bit, count out a little bit and see what works.
If you're hearing this, if this is the first time you've heard Music Student 101, you might want to go back and listen to episodes 1 through 75.
It'll help.
It'll help. But seriously, though, we did do in episode 3, we had a good discussion on rhythms and how to find the downbeat, stressed and unstressed beats and all that stuff. Anyway, after that, we needed to find the tempo, which was pretty easy to do with my clever little app, tapping.
Yeah,
tap
and
the
if you
beat.
don't have the clever little tapping app, a good metronome will do wonders.
A good metronome will do wonders. Okay, so we had that tempo, key signature. We talked about how we got it, right?
Yeah.
And then we have step 3, which is where you're going to map out the sections. You're going to kind of decide where the intro, where the verse, where the chorus is.
Yes.
And you'll do that, and you'll notate that with double bar lines to separate them. And if there's a repeat, you put a double dot.
Right, yeah.
Double dotted thing. Okay, and then that's where we found the intro, the verse, and the chorus and all that.
Yeah.
How to order them. And then step 4, finally, we had to figure out the chords and space them appropriately over the given measures so that someone could play along.
Yeah, and that's the real trick, finding the chords. And hopefully what you're getting from our discussion of that is that this is a track, kind of a back and forth / trial and error / discussion with yourself / analysis and whatever else to sort of decide what you think those chords are. The better your ear training is, the easier that'll be. The more you can hear function, the more you can sort of eliminate what it definitely not is and be left with a few options to choose from.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you're just kind of deciding. You're just kind of picking and choosing.
And it's not always easy to tell, for example, an A minor 7 chord from a C7. Well,
yeah.
Or sometimes in context, of other chords around it.
It can be super hard. So you have to try both.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and you have to be constantly evaluating your own assumptions too. You sort of assume it's an A minor chord, but don't necessarily do that. Ask yourself, is that an A minor chord? Is that
Or ask Keith.
As
I did. Hey, and here's another thing. Actually, this is the first time that I've actually interviewed a listener, about their composition. So
yeah.
I haven't glued this together. We're still recording this episode. I may or may not be able to actually get parts of his interview within this episode.
Yeah.
But I think with his permission, I'm going to try and put that on the website, the full interview, so you can actually hear what all he had to say about the song.
Yeah.
Because there's some really great little moments in that interview.
Sweet.
So I'm going to try. Hopefully you'll see that on the website. Make sure it's cool with him and everything.
Okay.
But we will have the song available, so you can listen over and over again and apply these skills.
We will have the sheet we made available. Steps 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Exactly, yes. So you'll have everything you need to get through the first part of this. And I think, Matt, it's kind of rare that we do a part 1 and then a part 2 right back to back.
But we're going to try this time.
I think we're going to try this
because
time.
this really is kind of the same process.
Yes.
And we'll start looking at that melody.
Yes, we're going to get to know the notation and then just stick the form together.
Yeah,
at the
which
very
really probably informed my ear more than you would think, given how little we talked about it this time.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, we will definitely get into that.
Well, now we have the melody in our heads because we've heard it quite a few times at this point. So
Yeah.
I think we'll be able to be a little quicker about picking it up.
Yeah. All right, so stay tuned.
We have almost everything we need to know about this song on paper. Keep on listening, and we'll work out that form and the melody. If you have questions about this episode, send them to info@musicstudent101.com.